This week we're going to start by kicking things off with the Dodge Ram. We got to shoot with it, believe it or not, so we got to get that worked on. Then I'm going to bring in that Ford Expedition, no, whatever it is, that Ford thing, rip out the engine so I can get the harness and the computer out of it. And then I think I'm going to finish the week off by working on the Bug and the Comanche. I'm just going to work on everything this week. But first, let's fill up on some Gearhead coffee. So what's going to happen is tomorrow we have a custom painter coming in, and he's actually going to paint the Cummins logo on the door of this truck for their Heritage Center to kind of give this the whole patina look. And then at the same time, I need to go ahead and mount up. We had to get a new set of wheels for this thing because the tires did not come in 16s, so those are 16s. So I'm going to go ahead and mount up some tires and wheels. And at the same time, I have to go ahead and mount up some tires and wheels for the first shooting that we're going to do with FourWheeler. That happens in 3 weeks. And so I figured what I'm going to do is I'm just going to mount everything up at the tire machine all at once. You know how this works with the tires. Just like to knock them all out one shot. I got obviously some super cool Method wheels, for the for one of those first projects that we're working on FourWheeler. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on those and get them mounted up. I'm going to install these tires onto the truck. You can see originally it had these pretty skinny little tires. We actually really like these wheels and this look. We tried to get a set of 20-inch tires and wheels, but we just couldn't get them, so we ended up going for just these black Steelies for now. If in the future they want to go back to these wheels, they can. I really didn't like how they looked with the service bed. I thought the offset looked a little goofy, but I love the truck with the service bed. So we put this service bed on this truck. You're going to see it on an episode of 4x4 Garage that is going to go on Motor Trend in the future. Like I said, we're getting the custom painter in tomorrow. I'll get some footage of that. But I do have to film this one tire going on the truck just so we have it for the show. And then I just saw something that I got to deal with. It's just something that's just been sitting around here for a while. Okay, you got to admit that looks a lot better than I think those little pizza cutters that were on there. I think that looks way better. Fits way nicer back here with the service bed. I still got to do the fuel filler, but I have it. I just got to put it in there. And then one thing I'm going to do right now is something that I've been meaning to do. This is my full-size spare for my Titan. I literally just been pushing this around the shop, and then whenever I go somewhere, I just throw it in the bed, and that is because the underbed mount is too small for the hole in this wheel. So when I go to suck it up underneath, it just pulls in. I keep meaning to cut a plate for that, and I figured, well, the truck's backed up to the door, the tire's sitting right here, the plasma tables are over there. It's going to take like 4 minutes to make a plate, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. So this is the problem I had, is this normally just, the wheel would normally sit right in here, but that aftermarket wheel, the hub was too big. It was just catching on the edge. So what I've done now is I've basically made this little piece here, and so now the wheel, this will catch here, the wheel will sit in there, and then I can just pull it up. I honestly could go ahead and probably make this a little bit smaller. But you know what? Nah, it's fine. It's fine. I'm just rethinking. The other one, you basically set it on there and it would just pop right through. Like, it literally had nothing to grab on. Like, it would sit there like that and just go bink. But you can see this one's a lot better. So I think we're in good shape here. So what I'm gonna do now is get the wheel underneath here, and I'll get this all hooked up, and then we can roll it up in, and I'll finally have my full-size spare underneath the bed. So what I wanted to work on today kind of got switched around. My original plan was to work on the bug today and get my sunroof prepped for shooting, that go in the car. But a couple days behind, the painter for our Cummins project had to push being here by a couple days, which meant I couldn't bring this truck in to pull the motor out, and I need to have the motor and wiring harness out of this truck here for the next, to get the harness stripped so I can send that off to Hotwire Auto. So that's today's job. Today's job is to get motor, transmission, transfer case, all the engine wiring and everything out of this car and get it in a box and get it overnighted out to Hotwire so they can cut down my harness and basically get this thing as a standalone runner for my 68 Jeepster. And as usual, when I came over to start it, the battery's dead. So I gotta swap a new battery in it. So a new battery's in it. Let's see if it starts now. Oh, we got all kinds of power in here. Good. All right. Stop it. There we go. The alarm was about to go off. We don't want that. All right. New battery started right up. All right. All right, so the truck's in the shop now. I've started to tear it apart. I've made the decision. I did a quick Instagram live video and somebody jumped on there and I asked the question, should I pull the motor or should I pull the body off to pull the motor? And my gut told me to pull the body off. That's pretty common with these newer Fords, and the reason why is because that motor sits so far back in that doghouse, basically back in there. I watched some YouTube videos where guys with the 5.4 were basically removing the intake manifold to get enough space to get the motor out, but what I'm trying to get out is the motor and the transmission. So based on that, what I've seen is, and based on what I've just been told on Instagram, is pull the body off. So I'm going ahead and I'm stripping the whole front end of this truck apart so I can just make it easier to get to stuff. I'm probably going to pull this radiator support. You know, you've got things like your AC condenser. I'm going to try and basically pull the AC compressor off of the motor before I take it out. And that way I don't have to worry about opening up that system. I can just leave it alone. If I have to open it up, I'll call my buddy with an evacuator and he'll come and suck it all out. I actually haven't even checked to see if there's any pressure in there. I should check that first. But if that's the case, we'll do that. And then I'm going to, once I get this front stripped, I'm going to put it up in the air and start prepping to figure out how to get the body off. Usually it's not that much work to get bodies off these new trucks because they're planned that way from the factory. Normally they're like built as a frame and a chassis and then body drops down on top of it. So we'll catch up a little bit later. I'm just going to keep tearing this front end apart. Of the day, whenever you're taking hoses off anything, you don't just pull the clamp off. In this case, a lot of these OEs use these little compression clamps, and then grab the hose and pull it. That usually causes whatever it's attached to break. So once you get the clamp back, just grab the hose lightly and twist it. Hear that little, you'll hear it break free. That way it can just slide off. Especially with these modern radiators and stuff, these plastic fittings like there, just grabbing it and pulling it usually causes it to break every time. So whenever you're stripping out an OE engine with the plan to use it in another project, you kind of want to try and keep as much stuff as possible. I have no idea if Chris from Hotwire is going to need this factory fuse box, but I think he might. Basically, this main connector comes down here. If you follow these two wires over here, some of this goes into the engine, which is why I think he needs it, and it kind of comes down, goes back, comes over, and ends up over into, that is the ECU, or the whole engine computer for everything, engine and chassis computer. There's a big lever lock connector right here, and this goes back into the body. So I think what I'm going to do is possibly disconnect this lever lock connector, cut this bundle of wires right here, and I believe what that will give me is this whole harness here. I have a little jumper coming out here. That looks like it might be an airbag wire right here. So I have this little wire jumping out here. But because I have this wire that was probably not a mass air, but some sort of air meter, maybe intake air temp connector right here. I need to keep this connector. So that's where I'll probably end up cutting it, is back there in that corner. Keep this run of wire, keep this fuse block, keep all this stuff. That way I can get everything over there. I've pulled most of everything off the front of the motor just to make it easier to work on. I do think I want to try to get this radiator out of here. Whenever I'm messing around with a motor, I like to get the radiator out if I can. That way I can keep it. If this was an LS, I wouldn't even worry about the radiator because I'd be planning to run an aftermarket radiator. But Fords are notorious for having incredibly complicated cooling systems. I don't know why. They're almost as bad as BMW, to be honest with you. So I'm probably going to try and keep that OE radiator so I can reuse it in the project. The nice thing is I'm building a chassis, so I can just sort of make anything I need fit. So I think the plan right now is going to be to get that radiator up and out of there and pull everything back. And then I'm going to get this truck up in the air and work on pulling the body. These are the parts that I'm planning to keep. The good news is that the AC system was empty. I'm imagining probably in the wreck, probably either pinched a line or put a hole in that condenser. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to check that later. I don't know if I'm going to put AC on the Jeepster or not, but like I said before, I want to keep that radiator assembly just in case I end up using it in the Jeepster. I don't want to commit to an aftermarket radiator because the Ford cooling system sometimes is very complicated. You can kind of see it here, what I'm talking about, this lower hose. So here you got this lower hose, right? So it comes down, but then it's got this little T that goes back and goes down to the engine, probably into an oil cooler. And then the upper hose is actually fairly simple on this one, which is good. This is the intercooler for the 3.5. Down here, I need it, so I'm gonna pull it out. I don't know if I'm going to reuse this one or if I'll use an aftermarket one. That will all depend on packaging inside the Jeepster. I would really like to honestly possibly use the quick draw setup that we got for the Cummins. Here it is, it's right here. So this is for the Cummins build. It's out right now because we're finishing up that project, getting all the welding done. This is a cooling module from QuickDraw that includes a intercooler and a radiator that basically is designed to fit a YJ and a TJ. I'm assuming that I'm going to be able to make that fit on my Jeepster because the grill is so close in basically size and shape, because I'm going to leave the grill and I'm going to leave the fenders on that truck. So now that I got this front end all apart, I think I'll go ahead and talk about what I was doing before. I'm going to cut the wiring in that front corner. I've already taken that lever lock off. This has come around. You can see I got this wire loose, that wire loose. This comes around here. These wires are all loose. I'll probably have to pull this apart. I believe this just goes up. I believe that this bundle of wires here just goes up to the computer. Oh, I'm wrong. Look at that. There is a bundle that goes into the body way up in there as well. So I'm probably gonna have to deal with that bundle as well. I'll probably call Chris from Hotwire, find out what he wants me to do with that. But here we go, just gonna keep going. I think now I'll pull the master cylinder off the booster. That's normally what I do when I pull a body off, because that way I don't have to break the hydraulic circuit. I can just go ahead and unbolt these two bolts, let this master kind of lay on the chassis side of things, and then I'll undo the steering, and then I think we'll put this thing up in the air after I get that intercooler out. I think I'm gonna go after that intercooler right now, maybe. Whew, that's kind of tricky. You know what? I can tell by looking at it, I'm not gonna be able to use that intercooler, so I'm just gonna pull the boost tubes off, leave the intercooler with this truck. There's no way I'm gonna be able to package that in there. That's way too much stuff in the front of that Jeepster. So I'm gonna go ahead and just keep unbolting some stuff, put this thing up in the air. All right, so I've got this truck up in the air now. I've never taken a body off one of these before, so whenever I'm doing that for the first time, I'm just basically going through and looking at what's gonna stay with the frame, what's gonna go with the body. Like I said before, most of the time, this actually isn't that hard to do because from the factory, they're basically assembled that way. I think I've got everything knocked out underneath the hood. Usually you miss a couple of ground wires or something, that's pretty normal. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work from the back to the front. I see I've got some body mounts here, way up in here, you can see them. And thanks Ford for making those Torx bits. That's just a great idea. Good job there, Ford. You know, nothing like did you not learn anything from Jeep? Don't put a Torx bit on a vehicle. Thank goodness this one is not from the north. So anyway, so got attachments there. Looks like this wiring harness for the trailer hitch and everything is going to stay with the frame. Come through here, up here. It looks like all of the brake lines and everything are going to stay with the frame. That's very similar to a JK. That's good. I can leave the drive lines in place. One thing you have to check always is the e-brake cables. So in this case, the e-brake cables are running along the frame. Oh, look, not a Torx bit. Good, thank you, Ford. They'll come through here as parking brake cable, and it goes right up through the floor there. So that's one attachment to the body that I got to deal with. Honestly, what I'm probably going to end up doing is just cutting that because I don't want to deal with it. Looks like I have a wiring harness here. That looks like it stays with the chassis. Like I said before, brake lines, they look like they're all going to be part of the chassis there. I've got this. This is obviously some sort of like sound deadening thing. I'm going to get rid of it just to save time in my world. When I pull this motor, as I said before, we're not using the transfer case because we can't. Apparently this is very hard to get the computer to talk to, so we're not going to use this transfer case. But when I pull this motor, I plan to keep the exhaust right to this point right here. And that way I'll be able to reuse the cats and everything. I'll leave all that alone in the truck, and then I'll just build my exhaust after this flex. Probably what I'll do is I'll unbolt it here, cut it right here, and then I'll keep that flex, clean this up, because it looks like I'd probably be able to weld to that, which is awesome. But to pull the motor and transfer case, I'll probably pull it all as one unit and just keep this transfer case, set it in the back of the truck. Up here, looks like another body mount here. Always look out for these bad boys right here. There's these little ground straps. These are little getches. So there's a ground strap there. Ford's notorious for that, for putting these ground straps. Nice thing is you can see it, which is good. As I said before, it looks like intercooler is going to go up with the body, but now that I see it here, I'm lying because it mounts here and these mounts are on the frame. So that's good, except for the fact that I think it's attached to this front bumper somehow. So I'm gonna have to take a look at that. I didn't want to have to pull the front bumper off of the truck. The only reason I didn't want to pull the front bumper off the truck is because it's all smashed up and it just makes getting to the fasteners nearly impossible. So right now I think the plan will be cut that e-brake cable, start pulling body mounts. I've already done the brakes, I've already done the steering. So I think if I just get those all those body mounts off. Oh, fuel filler. You always got to check the fuel filler. So in this case, it's right up, there's the fuel filler door is right up there. And so it comes through here. There's connectors right there. So I gotta deal with those two pipes right there. Looks like one's just a worm gear connector, and I can't see what the other one is right now. So I gotta deal with that too. So body mounts, e-brake cable, fuel door or fuel filler, and we'll see what happens. Throw the lift underneath it and see if it goes up in the air. All right, I did have to cut a few of those body mounts. Those rear ones just were not moving. So the plan now is to basically, we're gonna lower the truck down. I'm gonna move the lift pads from the frame onto this rocker. What I'm probably gonna have to do is roll the truck back maybe a little bit. I'm gonna try and get this one onto here. And I'm gonna try to get this one onto as far forward as I can. Actually, if I can swing it forward, get here, that would be even better. But that's the plan. Drop it down, position these lift arms underneath the rocker panel, and try and lift it up again. I was about to start lifting this body up and I forgot one very important thing, and that is shifter cable. So this transmission obviously is connected to the shifter. Some transmissions are not. I have no idea how to get this off of here. It looks like I've got like a little, I got like a little hat of some kind on there. And then, I don't know, something else, and I don't know. Anyway, I gotta get the shifter cable off of here, and once that's off of there, then we can lift the body up. So this is the next thing. Those rear mounts just did not want to let go, so I kind of just had to like run the lift up until they basically pulled the washers out. I couldn't cut on them anymore without just setting this whole truck on fire. So now what I do when I'm lifting the body off is I come in here and I just get it this high up, and I'm looking through. What I'm looking for is anything that's still attached. I can see a wire up there. I'm gonna go investigate that right now. Let's go see what that is. Coming through the wheel wells here. Nothing there. That's something. Oh, I can't believe I forgot that. Vacuum line for the booster. Ian, rookie move. Rookie move. Can't believe I forgot. There's a lot of vacuum lines. Look at that. There's a lot of vacuum lines on that booster. Oh, Ian, once again, can't believe I forgot this. I completely forgot to disconnect the heater core. Okay, that's okay though. I'll just cut those lines. You can see right there. Basically, I've got, this is all, oh, it's got rear seat heat too. All right, so I'm just gonna cut it here. It looks like it may have ripped one already. That was for that rear seat heat. I'll cut those two. Oh, there's one. Look at the stretch on that. Oh, it's already pulled loose. Ground strap that I forgot. Okay, so let's do these heater core lines, and then I think it's good to put this thing to the sky. So now what I need to do is basically go through and completely unplug everything. One thing that you need to pay attention to when you're doing this, try not to break these. This one was actually already broke. This one was already broken. You can see someone replaced this coil pack at some point in time. And look, they didn't even put the bolt in it. That's terrible. Look at this. This is absolutely embarrassing. Someone replaced this coil pack and did not put the bolt in it to hold it down. Come on, guys. You go through all that work to get to this coil pack, put a coil pack in it, break the connector, don't put a bolt in. Should be ashamed of yourself. Ashamed of yourself. Don't call yourself a mechanic if that's the kind of stuff you do. Come on, guys. We're better than this. Put the bolt back in. If you break the connector, buy a connector. Put a connector on there for them. Gosh. Man, Ryan Shand would be ashamed of you. Terrible. Okay, anyway. My rant is over. So now I'm going to go through, like I said, pull all this wiring harness off. I talked to Chris from Hotwire. He said, just give me the engine harness, the computer with the 2 lever locks, and maybe some of these extra connectors, because some of these things had like there was a mass air meter and some other stuff on this front end, but it doesn't need the big wiring, fuse block, and all that kind of jazz, which is perfect. So I'm just going to go through here, pull all these wires off, get them in a box, get them shipped out. The hardest part of this entire harness was this little bad boy right here. This is the, come on, focus, focus, there we go. This is the crank sensor, and believe it or not, in Ford's wisdom, they basically put it inside the transmission bell housing, so it comes around through here and plugs in from the front side. So there's a little rubber grommet that you have to pop off of here, and that gets you access to that crank sensor. And so now at that point, what I have right here is the entire engine harness has been removed from the engine. That's it. That's what I was after. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lower the body back down, and I'm going after the computer. I'm going to get the computer out of there, and I asked Chris what he wanted. I'm going to pull some specific connectors off there for him. And then I'm going to box that up with the computer. I'm going to run over to the UPS store and get this thing overnighted up to Hotwire, because they're going to need at least a week to work on it. I want to get them as soon as possible. Like I said, I'm a little behind on this one, so I feel bad that I kind of hung them out to dry. So I'm glad I got that apart, off to the computer. Then we'll pull some wires. All right, so I have got the harness completely off the motor now. And what I'm going to do is run to the UPS store right now so I can get it shipped. Hopefully get it in a truck tonight. If I waited until I was going home, then it probably wouldn't leave until tomorrow. I think if I get there right now, I'll be able to get it into a truck tonight and hopefully get it there for either a tomorrow, which would be Wednesday, or a Thursday delivery, and that'll give them basically a week and a half to chop down the harness. I don't need the computer back for the show, but I do want to get the harness back for that episode. All right, so off to the UPS store. All right, well, oh, excuse me. So I just dropped the harness off at the UPS store, so now it is gone. And so now what I'm going to do is work on getting all of the mechanical stuff pulled apart on here so I can pop this motor out. I'll probably stuff the truck up in the air. And then I think what we're going to do is I'm going to pull the drive lines out and figure out fuel lines, and then start disconnect the motor and work on the work on the exhaust, where I want to pull the exhaust apart. So that's it. So drive lines, that'll be pretty simple. And then I think we'll get that exhaust out of there, that heat shielding gone, and then we can start unbolting everything, getting a crane in here and lift it up. I'm trying to decide, I got two options here. Number one, I could basically unbolt everything from the motor, frame, all that kind of jazz, and just leave the motor in the chassis where it's like ready to come out, and then just set the body back on it, stick it outside, and then when we film, just bring it in and lift the body up and pull it out so we have something to show on TV. Or I could go ahead and pull the motor out now and just have the engine on the floor with the transfer case. I don't know. I might talk to producer Matt and see what he wants to do. We'll figure it out from there. But right now I'm just going to start disconnecting stuff. We'll go from there. Okay, so I've stabbed the body back on. Basically everything in there is loose. To pull that motor, I'll just have to hook the chains up and to pull it. So what we'll do is when we go to shoot the show, we'll just bring this into the other studio on a four-wheeler, lift the body up, hook up the crane, pull the motor out, put the body back down, and shoot this body and frame out of here, and then it will be gone. But I put it back on there just to make it easier for me to get the whole thing out of the shop. It's a lot. If I left the body off the frame, because that's kind of what producer Matt, my producer, suggested. He said, oh, just leave the frame, we'll just pull the motor out of the frame. And I'm like, well, then I gotta figure out a way to get this body out of here, and that's gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna be easier just to do it like this. When we pull the motor out, drop the body back on the frame, and shove it outside. So I think the plan right now will be to figure out a way to get it outside of the back door. That'll be a tomorrow thing. I think I'm gonna move some vehicles around tomorrow in here and then do a little bit of work. But there we go. So we've got the EcoBoost ready to rock. This motor and tranny is ready to come out. I've got everything figured out for it. And I think that's gonna be where we end for today. So we'll check back in here with a brand new day tomorrow. All right, so now that I've got the body sat back down on the frame, I'm gonna move some vehicles around just to get this thing ready for four-wheeler in 2 weeks. I need to get it prepped so I can get it on the lift later. It doesn't have to go over into that studio right now. I just need to move it around a little bit so it can go in there at a later date. So what I'm actually gonna do is I'm actually gonna push this one out that door, move the Defender, move the Cummins Jeep back onto this lift, and just make a couple things, just move some things around in the shop, because I got a plan I'm gonna let you into on a little bit. I brought the Yota in because I finally have all the parts I need to finish my V8 swap. This thing has literally just been sitting outside, and I had to move it anyway because I need to move the EcoBoost, whatever the heck that thing is called, Excursion. I think it is an Excursion. Yeah, because the Expedition's a big truck. I have to park it where this was parked. So I brought this in here so I can mess around with it a little bit and then see what all I need to do in order to make it run. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip the motor back out. It's just temporarily sitting there. I'm going to rip the motor back out. Oh, look who it is. It's Zelda's here. Hey, Zelda. You want to say hi to everybody? Say hi. Hello, Sniffy, Sniffy, Sniffy. Such a great puppy dog. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip the motor out because I have the right adapter plate. I really thought maybe I was going to pull the cab off of it to make getting this motor in for good easier, but I can't take the cab off because those rock sliders are all up against the cab, and there's going to be no way to lift that cab up, so that's not going to happen. So I think this is going to be a figure out how to get this all together with everything in place. It's not going to be easy. So I think first things first, what I'm going to do is probably get my little scissor lift out, get it on the scissor lift, or maybe I will I was contemplating putting it on the lift over here, and honestly, I think that might be the best thing to do. I might just go ahead and Now, I know this may seem silly because I've got like the Comanche to work on, or the Cummins Jeep to work on, but the Bug to work on, the Defender to work on, 715 to work on, and then prepping for four-wheeler. But I pretty much have everything ready for four-wheeler. I want to cut a couple pieces of steel, but that's it. Everything else is ready to go. All the parts are here, so I'm happy with that. I don't want to jump in on the Comanche because what I need to start next is going to take probably 3-4 days, and so I want to have those 3-4 days blocked off to do it, and plus I want to film it. And I really think if I just concentrate on this truck for like a couple of days, just do nothing but this, I think since everything's here, I think there's a good chance that I can get this thing running and driving again, which I really, really love. Look at this dog. This dog loves just chilling in a truck. You like being in the truck? Yeah, you like the truck, don't you? You just love chilling in trucks. You're like a truck puppy. Best puppy. She's the best dog. Okay, so as I said before, I think what I'll do is get up on the lift, pop the front tires off because that makes it easier to get the motor out. The motor, as I said before, is just sitting in there. I think what I'll do is I'll rip the motor out and then assess what I have parts-wise, figure out what needs to go on, and then we'll start putting it back together. All right, that's where I'm going to stop for this week. I'm actually going to load up Zelda, my wife. We're going to take off. Got a state park trip over the weekend. Going to do some hiking, some hanging out, lots of tons of fun. The weather looks like it's going to be good, so we're going to have a great time. Then I'll come back next week, and we'll go back and hit on this thing again, and then prep the shop for shoot week, the following week after that, for four-wheeler. Thanks again for checking us out here inside the Big Tire Garage. We'll see you next time.